Welcome to Storiology, the podcast. I'm your host, Michelle, and this is Kaitlund Zupanic, the artist and business owner of Drawn to Dragons, which is an art studio and gallery in Provo Town Center Mall, and it is stunning, and I am delighted to have you here, Kaitlund.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and answering some questions for you.
All right, so you and Drawn to Dragons mainly draw dragons and other dragon-adjacent cute critters and unicorns and griffins and all sorts of cool stuff. I love your belugas too, by the way. I don't think I've ever told you that. But
oh, thank you. I'm glad you like them.
They're really cute. So, what was the thing that made you just really love dragons?
So, it's always been unicorns and dragons, but I would say the main thing would be the last unicorn. It did have a dragon in there, but the Flight of Dragons as well, and the animated Hobbit, the Rankin version. Those are probably some of my favorite, all-time, like, top 3 favorite movies that featured dragons and other mythical creatures. So those were definitely a very, very big key element into developing my current style and why I love them.
That makes sense, and that was actually what brought us together as friends. Is she had a booth at Fanix, which is Salt Lake City's local kind of Comic-Con type vibe situation, and I think it actually was called Salt Lake City Comic-Con at the time.
Mm-hmm, it was.
But scandal happened.
Yes.
Scandal. Not really, just drama. And we were talking about Lord of the Rings specifically, and I mentioned that I have a Lord of the Rings party every year, and that was how we became friends. So
I'm still sad I've only made it to 1. Eventually I'll make it to more, but...
Well, if I would have hosted more, it probably would have helped, but I had all sorts of things go wrong a couple of years in a row. So, and then there was COVID, and...
Yeah, because that was 2019 or 2018 when we met?
We met in 2019. And then there were no Hobbit parties for 2 years. I did 1 Hobbit party, and then I had horrible health for the next year.
Okay, so I made it to the one that happened. I think there was one prior that I missed, though, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, there might have been one. I think.
But, 50% isn't bad.
Yeah, it's really quite good. I'm pretty impressed. It's better than I do. So, and I'm hosting almost.
No, you'll do it when you can.
Right, so it's a good time. But yeah, Lord of the Rings also brought us together. Mm-hmm. And you have a beautiful style. It's a fine art style, in case you guys are wondering. And of course, I'll put links to her shop in the description and her socials, so you can see all of her gorgeous work that she does. And you mainly do fine art style as well as a new but well-developed illustration style.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. And you are currently accepting commissions, right?
Yes, I am currently accepting commissions in between working on the tarot card deck and my anthology. So hopefully that'll be launching on BackerKit May 1st. Well, it will be launching on BackerKit May 1st. And then the anthology, hopefully a little later this year. I don't have a set date for that one.
Oh, and I have seen some of the art on her computer in her little office, like just hanging out and looking at stuff. It's gorgeous, and anybody who likes to read or likes dragons will love her work. So that is a lot of fun. And the anthology itself, tell people what an anthology is and what they can expect from that anthology.
So an anthology is a collection of short stories, and mine's going to be a little different. It is actually going to be stories that tell a continual narrative throughout the pieces. So each story, for the most part, will have an illustration of mine that I've completed sometime in the past 10 years. So I've been working on this with 2 other local authors and my husband. We have Paul Genesse, one of the authors, and Patrick Tracey, another author. And it's kind of just world building over the course of like the 8 or 10 years of artwork that I've been working on. So a lot of people have been really excited seeing the pieces and then knowing that there is a story behind it that is kind of a it's not going to be a novel, obviously. It's more flash fiction, but currently we have it at about 30,000 words, but that was before Patrick ended up giving us about another, 6 pages of writing. So we're really excited, and we're on the final, the final manuscript before we send it off to one of our friends, Jenny Stevens, to do some of the editing on that. So we're excited. We're very excited. Misha will be one of the beta readers, or technically alpha. We had discussed this. It would be alpha reader, but so I'm hoping to announce that soon.
Which I'm very pleased about, by the way. So, and as I said, I have seen the work in progress. Not only is the art beautiful, but the words and the pages they look like an illustrated manuscript, and if you choose to stick with that style, which I hope you do, it'll be gorgeous regardless, but
yeah, I'm excited. I'll be doing other little illustrations to tag onto it, including like headers and stuff like that in my new Art Nouveau style. Actually, technically, it's now been coined Draco Nouveau, thanks to my wonderful friend and mentor, Howard Lyon. He was my teacher and now good friend who helped me develop my oil painting style, along with a couple other artists like Heather Edwards. But he definitely, just within the past 2 months, said you definitely should kind of coin a name for it, kind of like the Western like Art Nouveau that kind of became a big style for a little while. So now I have Draco Nouveau. I love it. It'll be really fun.
And I really love Art Nouveau. Nouveau.
I am not 100% sure on the exact pronunciation. I just always call it Art Nouveau. So
cool. I've always called it Art Nouveau. So
I'm fine with either one of those. It's beautiful.
Spelling's the same though, right? Like
yeah, indeed.
Noveau. You.
Yeah.
I thirst. Okay.
Water is good.
Maybe we can cut that. I don't know.
We're human beings.
Drinking water.
We require sustenance in the form of water and or food.
Yep, it's true. And so I know that you have a process. When you make a piece of art, a lot of times there's a story in your mind that goes along with it, or sometimes you make art for other people's stories as well. So tell us a little bit about the difference in those and how that comes to pass, because that's fascinating to me.
That's a really good question, and I actually have multiple different ways of how I have an illustration come from like the beginning stages or just the idea stage to full completion. And say if I'm doing a commission for a client, like a book, specifically, say like the Dragonriders of Pern series that I just did through Grimmelk Press. The White Dragon is actually shipping now. That was my favorite one that I did. So for each illustration that I did, including the cover, I do what's called thumbnails. And I have kind of like a general idea of what I want it to be, and I'll make just little thumbnails. They're max, like maybe like an inch to inch and a half tall. And I will do just really quick, almost like 1 to 2 minute sketches, and I'll do pages and pages of those until I find some that work and that I like. And then I'll take that and do like a more refined drawing and just kind of piecing it together in stages after that until I get to the final illustration, including shooting references with models and stuff like that. If it's for, say, an illustration of mine that I'm doing either for the anthology, tarot card deck, or just for myself, usually what I do is I'll play first. So I'll just start sketching in my sketchbook and just trying to see what I can come up with. And the drawing will evolve over time. A lot of the illustrations for the anthology actually came about without me knowing the story that it tied into with the anthology. I just had a broad idea of kind of what I wanted to be shown in the piece, like say on an emotional level, or even just a beautiful description of, say, like for Cosmic Seas, like just showing a different style of dragon, like an aquatic dragon. And sometimes I don't even know where it fits into the narrative until, sometimes even like 5 or 6 years after I've done the piece, as I'm just kind of putting it all together. So I know it's a definitely different way of doing things for my own work. It's a lot less streamlined and uniform when I'm doing stuff like that. But other times, say for like the tarot card deck, each card has a relatively specific meaning and elements that go into each card. So I'll usually look up different descriptions of the cards and look up different tarot card decks that kind of have the feel or the vibe that I want to do, and then I'll make it my own by shooting references. I just did a photo shoot on Sunday with Howard Lyon and 2 other local models. One of them is an illustrator. Her name is escaping me right now. It's Alondra, but I can't remember her last name. But I did post her, the image on my Facebook, so you can see that on my Facebook where I tagged her and her husband. But trying to gather as much as I can as far as reference and stuff like that to make the tarot card deck look much more Art Nouveau as far as like Alphonse Mucha versus like more of a simplistic style. So I'm definitely trying to push that for sure. It's been really fun, and I got a lot of really beautiful really beautiful images that I'm going to use for most of the major arcana and some of the minor arcana, for mainly like the page and the king and queens of all the suites, or the wands, pentacles, swords, and oh my goodness, can't remember the last one. But yeah, for all of those. But usually it'll just kind of be definitely gathering references and putting it together and doing drawings on my iPad, and then I'll usually print them out and add more to them. So I'll do just a very basic outline of what I want, and then I'll go and put in all of the details after I've printed it on some really nice watercolor paper. So I have some Canson watercolor paper that I'm doing all of the drawings on for the tarot card deck, that I can then scan and color digitally and mock up for all of the cards.
Ooh, and I'm geeking out so bad because I think tarot decks are so pretty, and I just want to collect them all because all of them have such unique and cool art, and especially with your art style. I'm just fangirling over here, working up a sweat, just being excited about it.
You and a bunch of other people. People are very rabid for tarot card decks, and I love it. I am very grateful. I couldn't do this without people like you to support the deck that I'm building and everything else. I'm especially liking the style. It's a quicker style for me to illustrate, especially if I have references that I've shot. So it's nice not having to spend like 40 to 80 plus hours doing a really detailed digital painting, or even an oil painting, which can sometimes take upwards of, a couple weeks all the way up to a few months or even a year.
And cost several $100s worth of just paint.
Yes.
Just paint.
It's expensive. The paint tubes go relatively far, but like when I built the large boards with my husband Charles for Ascension of Goliath and Ascension of Heraeth, the client wanted it 8 foot tall, so I had to do 2 boards of those. So that was a very, when I go in and start doing the larger boards, it can get really expensive with building the boards and all the paint. The medium, for sure. I use a lot of medium when I paint and oil, and it's really nice.
Yeah, they're beautiful in case you have never seen them in person. Where are they hanging right now? Are they still at Springfield?
No, they're actually with the private client in, I believe, Vineyard.
Okay.
He has a warehouse and shop there, and they hang there in the main entryway. They've been debating on bringing them to his bookstore, also at Provo Town Center, Artifacts of History. They've opened up a gallery there as well that's attached to their bookstore. If you're looking for books, antique books, beautiful books, they have all sorts of books that they have available there. I can browse in there for like hours. It's beautiful. But I'm hoping that maybe sometime in the next like little while, they might eventually make an appearance over there.
Okay, because I know that for a while you had a copy of Herith and Goliath hanging in Springfield Art Museum, which is a gorgeous art museum. If you have never been, you should go. And they're these just enormous oil paintings that are stunning. They're just, I can't even explain to you how big they are.
Yeah, my normal size that I paint in oil is going to be like 2 foot by 4 foot. That's what a lot of mine are. Sometimes I'll do smaller ones. Like I just had a piece in the Springville Museum of Art that was 16 by 20, which is a little bit like for me that's a lot smaller. Normally I'm doing much bigger, but yeah. Eventually, I want to do more 8-foot paintings. I have, at my studio, I have an easel that can accommodate up to an 8-foot painting. So I'm going to definitely try to do that. It might not be this year. It might have to be a 2026 year endeavor. But it's on my agenda. And that one I'll have available for people to come and watch me paint, which will be nice.
Yeah, and that is I wish I could just, like, the canvases are so big that you have to have either a scaffolding or you guys used a twin bed frame that you glued and stapled together to slide up and down to paint this thing.
Yeah, when I was transferring the drawing, so I had the board on the ground with the printed out drawing on top of it, and I was transferring it with graphite paper. And we used a twin bed frame that we rigged, and I could lay flat on a board and just roll myself back and forth as I was drawing. So I was laying on my stomach, transferring the drawing. And then once I started painting, we actually used painting scaffolding from Home Depot, like one of those foldable, like, I can go up to 4 feet higher, so that I was able to get everything painted in.
Oh my gosh, I'm a little bit scared of heights. So the idea of standing on a ladder and doing that, because you can't just set the thing on the ground, you have to prop it up a little. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it was barely tall enough. My ceilings in the basement where my family and I live, it was unfinished, so it had to sit on the ground pretty much. And then the scaffolding, thankfully, it was 4 feet long, and so I had a foot of a bridge that I could stand on. But still, here I am painting. As my husband knows, I'm quite clumsy in particular with stuff like that, so he definitely did not like that, but I survived and it was fine.
I'm glad you survived. Yeah, I'm glad the paintings survived.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's incredible work that Kaitlund Zupanic does, and so I hope you get to go hop over to her website and look at it, because it is so beautiful. But yeah, so what stories have you consumed recently?
A lot. I am an avid Audible listener, so there is a ton. One of the more recent ones that I just finished was quite nice. It was a very unique take, which was A Language of Dragons. That one I really enjoyed for the different take that it had with the communications between dragons and stuff like that. It's not a specific dragon rider type of book. It's kind of a little bit more separate, and there's a lot more conflict between the humans and the dragons, but it was definitely a nice book. And yeah, you definitely should read it. I highly recommend it.
That is just so on brand for you.
It is. I consume anything I can that is a book that has dragons in them for the most part. So, I've read Fourth Wing, I've read all of those, I've read Aragon, I've read The Hobbit and The Silmarillion, The Lord of the Rings multiple times.
Children of Huron.
Yes. Well, actually, no, I have not read. So I have.
That was sad.
Yeah.
You don't like that one, I don't think.
I have the one where I think it's Christopher Lee. Mm-hmm. It's either that one or the other one that I have, but I think it's Christopher Lee who does that audiobook.
Yeah, he did Children of Huron.
Yes, and I haven't for some reason gotten into that one as much, but I definitely should.
Well, the dragon is kind of a side character, so I can see why you would prioritize more dragon-centric media.
It's true, but I'll read stuff that also isn't, like, specifically fantasy. Like, I've read all of the books in Dune. I think it's Red Rising. That's another series that's kind of more a sci-fi. It's very nice. I like that one a lot. But there's just a ton of books that I consume. It's hard to list them all. I have, like, hundreds upon hundreds of books in my Audible. So.
Yeah, Audible is such... I'm so grateful for audiobooks, just in general. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I guess I drank too much water.
You're okay.
Okay. I'm back.
Excellent. How about you?
Ooh, I have been reading... I've been reading this comic on Webtoons, the app, called Monster Heart is what it's called.
Oh, very cool.
And the illustration style, it almost reminds me of yours, but I feel like your color palette is a little bit more selective, and the artist's color palette for Monster Heart is a little bit more, I don't know what to say, how to explain it. I can explain it with music, but only like a handful of music people will get it. Yours is like a pentatonic scale, and theirs is more like a major scale.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes... I do tend to use not necessarily a monochromatic palette, but it is definitely more limited. I stick to like those blues and purples, and like I even in the new piece that I'm doing of the Sea Queen, I fell into that one unexpectedly, but it's quite nice. Like, it's definitely
beautiful.
Thank you.
I was looking at it today, just your sketch. I was like, wow.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't usually have time to read, like, webtoons. I do from time to time, but...
Well, you're painting all day, every day, so audiobooks are wonderful for that.
It's the way to go. And I'll fluctuate between, like, listening to music and listening to audiobooks. But usually it's either music, like a soundtrack, or just my playlist, or definitely audiobook. But I cannot paint or draw if there's not usually anything going on in the background. Like, I have to have that.
I get it. It's almost like it makes it easier to tune out everything else if you have that one thing to focus on. And let's see here. It's a really cute story. It's a kind of a post-apocalyptic world where there's dragons and like a handful of humans left, and there's zombies that can kind of come back to life, but they're not the same person they were before. It's really been fun. It's been a fun one.
Nice.
So that's what I have read recently, and I feel like I watched something recently. Oh, I started The Pool Man.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It stars Chris Pine, wrote and directed it, and I'm about 15 minutes in, and that's as far as I've gotten so far.
Nice.
But so far I like it. It's really interesting. And what else have I listened to or watched? My brain is drawing a blank.
It's all right.
Oh, I've been reading some nonfiction as well, but that's not the same. It's not Storiology material.
Yeah. I think one of the really good things that I watched lately, obviously Arcane. Excuse me. Arcane is wonderful. Oh, there's been a bunch that I've watched recently.
The art in Arcane is so pretty, too.
Yes, especially for being the most expensive animated show ever created. Hands down, it's just beautiful. I love it.
I particularly love Jinx's, like, hair pigtails that are super long ropes, and they just move everywhere.
It makes for beautiful leading lines. Like, that's one thing that I like about dragons in general, is you can create such fun, like, just shapes and movement with their wings, their neck, their tails, all of that. And that definitely is kind of the same thing with Jinx. Like, it's just really fun to see.
And the color, like, I love pink and blue a lot for whatever reason. You probably guessed.
It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful color palette.
It's so fun. So that's been a lot of fun for me to see her character in those colors as well, because those are some of my favorite combinations. That and black. I just like black. I like black and white.
Same.
It's good and solid.
It's very solid.
Most of my closet is in fact black. Mm-hmm. But the pieces that are not black are very, very not black.
I love it. It's very, very good.
It's a good time. It's a good time.
It is indeed.
And I have all of my fur coats pulled out to
it's amazing.
Muffle the sound a little bit, keep the echoes down.
It's perfect.
And then what do you think makes a good story versus kind of a lackluster story?
Conflict. Mm-hmm. Like having that conflict and need to solve something is like paramount, right? In a story, you always have to have that underwriting current of like tension to solve a problem or overcome like physical limitations or limitations within yourself mentally. Like for me, that makes a really, really excellent story. And I'm also very, very drawn to stories that are just, heart-wrenching gut punch. Like I want to feel the feels when I'm reading. I want to be able to feel the emotions of the characters as they're going through that journey.
All of them are just cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. The answer is yes. You might like Sarah Chorn's books. If you haven't read them. She's a Utah author.
Okay.
And I wonder if she would be willing to be on the podcast. I haven't asked her yet. But yes, I have never read, I was just sobbing from chapter 2 all the way through this book. So
I blame Island of the Dolphins when I was a kid. If you ever read that one, it was horrifying. It was sad. It was very sad. There was a couple other books, but, reading on those pivotal years when you read something and it just, really attacks your heart and you're just like, okay, so this is what reading is now. That's just reading.
Yeah, for me it was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott when Beth died.
I haven't read that. So.
Oh, goodness. The tears.
Yeah, it's about what happened in Island of the Dolphins. These two, I can't remember if they're teens or if they're kids, but they get stranded on this island where there's dolphins that live around in the cove and they have to survive. And the brother ends up dying and the sister, I think, gets rescued. But when he died, it was it was heart-wrenching. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I chose not to read that one because it made my sister cry.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, and she's 5 years older than me, too.
Oh.
So even though, we were almost the same reading level because I was one of those weird kids that started reading, probably a little too early, and then my reading was somewhat unsupervised, which my mom doesn't totally know that. She thought she supervised me, and she did, but she forgot to always check my library book stacks. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there are a few books that I read that I probably should have waited a couple years for.
Fellow reader like that. That's just kind of how it goes. But it's, to be fair, it is a little bit harder to navigate that as a kid and to be a parent trying to keep your kids from reading that.
Well, so I would steal my sister's books, which I don't think my mom knew that I was doing that, but my sister would leave them in the bathroom.
Well, there you go.
Those bathroom breaks. And so I would just take them at the end of the night, read for a couple hours at night and in the morning, then put them back.
There you go.
And so I read a lot of stuff that was meant for older people. And Brave New World at the age of 12 was...
Oh, I have not read that one.
Yeah.
I get it. All right.
Right there with 1984 and Animal Farm, so...
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for 11, 12-year-olds, but...
Very much so. I feel like that was probably a lot of kids and or teens or young adults getting into Dune as well. That series is good. It is dated. It is very much dated, but that is also something that probably fell into that genre for a lot of people growing up. I mean,
Dune was a pivotal work, though, because the whole Star Wars universe, like Tatooine is based on Dune itself, and there's quite a few like sci-fi parallels that pulled from Dune for just space adventures.
Extremely pivotal for a lot of this stuff. And a lot of people don't actually know, but space and galaxies play a role in my anthology as well, which is fun. It's kind of a mix of not necessarily both worlds. It is still generally a fantasy book, but
I'm so excited.
Imagine the premise of that would be the dragons are the gods of the universe, but they've forgotten that they are the gods of the universe. So it's pretty fun.
So just kind of these eldritch creation creatures just moseying around.
Kind of. You'll have to see.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. It'll be good.
Well, we made 30 minutes. Is there anything else you would like to talk about before we go?
Oh, goodness. No, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. But, they're always welcome to email me or message me on any of my socials if they have any specific questions for me as well.
All right, you hear that, audience? And she's really good at her social medias. I'm terrible. I'm trying to be better, but we're getting there.
It's tricky to keep up, so.
It really is.
It's a lot.
Join us next time for our interview with Cameron Sawyer, the director who is trying to get Fablehaven off the ground. So really excited to be interviewing him. Shout out to my friend Marty for the lovely accessories that she lent to me for this interview with Kaitlund. And a shout out to Kaitlund, of course, and her store Drawn to Dragons for sparing her for a day so that she could come here and do this interview.
Yes, I'm very grateful for my husband who's holding down the fort, because my business is pretty much just my husband and I, so very small.
And if you see how much work and incredible stuff she's got in her studio, which you can go visit for free in Provo, Utah, at Provo Town Center Mall, you will be stunned that that is the work of just two people. It is incredible. So thanks again for being here, Kaitlund.
Yeah.
It's delightful to interview you. And if anybody has any questions for anything, just drop us a line, send us a social, and we'll get back to you then. Okay, love you, bye!